everyone, and welcome to the Cinematic Schematic, the official podcast of thecinematropolis.com, your home to thoughtful conversations on film. I'm your host, Caleb Masters, and today I'm here with a special interview about a very important topic. This is dropping, I think, for you on August 1st. That's a Friday. We only drop Friday episodes if it's a big deal. And that's because we are talking with three members of the Oklahoma Film Exchange. This is a group that recently formed to preserve cinema, celebrate culture, and build community here in Oklahoma. And their first project is among the most important you can possibly do in cinema, which is save Oklahoma City's Film Row Theater. Seriously, you can't do anything more important than save a movie theater at this point in time. It is a rallying cry, really. Their goal is to raise $100,000 by August 25th. So they're going to do so in about 3.5 weeks. So I'm going to talk to a few members of the team about their mission before learning about how listeners can contribute to the Indiegogo for the Oklahoma Film Exchange campaign and support the cause. Joining me today, all three members of the Oklahoma Film Exchange. The first up is going to be a familiar voice to all of our listeners, long time. He's one of my oldest podcasting friends. I usually bring him on for action movies, occasionally horror movies, but today he's here to talk about saving cinema. Oklahoma Film Exchange operations and programming personnel, Dalton Stewart. Dalton, welcome back.
Hey, buddy. Good to see you, Caleb. Thank you for having us on to talk about our breakneck speed mission. I mean, an impossible mission,
it's
some
impossible.
could say.
It is an impossible mission, some could say. And you did choose to accept it.
I did indeed.
Well, hey, always happy to chat with you, Dalton. Very excited to hear that. Well, sad to hear the news that this historic theater's closing, but happy to see that people like yourself are jumping into action. Next up, two first-time guests. First up, this is, I would argue, probably one of the most prolific cinephiles in Oklahoma City. He's the founder of VHS and Chill, and another program at the Oklahoma Film Exchange, Sean Peel. Sean, welcome.
Hello, welcome. I'm happy to be here.
How are you?
I'm good. I'm excited.
You also were fresh off a very meaningful, in-depth conversation with filmmaking legend, icon, Francis Ford Coppola, no?
Yes, it was more than I ever expected what it became. That whole experience at the Texas Theater last night.
Oh, so you screened Megalopolis at the Texas Theater with a Q&A, followed with a Q&A afterwards with Francis Ford Coppola.
Yes, sold out. They even had their second screen set up as fill over. You know, people were going in there and they were broadcasting it in that screen, the Q&A and everything over there. It was an experience.
If Francis Ford Coppola's attached, you know it's going to be an experience. Good, bad, confusing. We're not sure, but it'll be an experience you won't forget.
That is very true.
All right. Well, we'll talk with you a little later in the show, just for kicks and giggles. But last but certainly not least, we're excited to welcome for the first time Cam Hunter, who is an operations and social media person for the Oklahoma Film Exchange. Cam, welcome.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here. It's a really cool setup.
Oh, thank you.
Yes.
I like talking to people, and I like, you gotta have a cool place to do it.
You gotta have a cool place.
If I'm gonna indulge myself by talking on a microphone for hours, you might as well build a table and
you gotta do it up, and you did. So.
Well, thanks. I'm very flattered. This is one of my favorite things to do. All right. Well, maybe I'll just kick things off. Oklahoma Film Exchange. What exactly is the Oklahoma Film Exchange? You're a new organization. Walk me through it. And Dalton, I'll toss to you first.
Yeah. So I started talking about this with Justin Jane first. Justin did social media for the Rodeo Cinema Foundation for a while when I was hosting Down in Front over there. And Justin and I got to be pretty good buds. And stuff wasn't working out at Rodeo, and he moved on to other things. And then Rodeo went through some pretty big switch ups and had to cease operations at the Film Row Theater. And so Justin and I started talking, and he got me and Sean together, and the three of us and a handful of other folks who just cared about that space were talking about whether or not we would do anything with it, but definitely talking about how we wanted to try and have some of the success that Hyperreal in Austin had as far as cultivating a real community around film locally. And again, there's, Sean does VHS and Chill, Paris Burse and Kirsten Thurgelson, who work with us, do film together. I do Down in Front. So we had all these kind of disparate screening series that we were talking about, maybe trying to find a way to bring under one umbrella and find a home for. And we were thinking about that space. We're like, well, no, Rodeo's in there. They'll figure out what to do with it. And, it's just not working out. So we found out around the time Sean was prepping that screening room for Dead Center this year, that Rodeo wasn't going to be able to continue its lease there. And that the building owners weren't really interested in making sure it stayed a screening room. And, Sean posted this really beautiful, just a little reel that he had some people help him with that just kind of was like an ode to the space. And, Sean talked online a little bit about, falling in love with the space all over again, getting it ready for Dead Center. And then I hosted Horror Shorts Q&A at the space as well. And I kind of had a similar experience doing that. I was like, man, this room is so good, especially when it's packed out. I just really, just felt the vibration of the room really, and Sean was talking about it. And so we all kind of got together and we're like, we got to do something. We first thought maybe it was just too much responsibility to be in a historic building. But once we found out that that screening room is just going to cease to exist entirely, we knew we had to do something. So, we found that out probably end of June, I guess, start of July. And so since July 5th, we've pretty much been all gas, no brakes, trying to get this campaign off the ground because we don't really have very much time. And Rodeo, they care about the space too a lot, and they were kind enough to, for the last month of their lease, just let us use the space gratis, so we could just promote this fundraiser, do all kinds of weird programming, kind of show the community like what we have in mind for the space throughout August as sort of a way to generate interest and to just kind of, again, get the word out about what we want to do with the space, because it's such a cool room, and it's a great place to see a movie, but there's so much more you can do in that space too. And we're just really excited to show it off to people in August, and maybe try to get the word out to folks who've never even heard of it.
Yeah, I appreciate giving the rundown on the story here. So again, listeners, for those of you who are not familiar with the Film Row location of Rodeo Cinema, or I guess formerly Rodeo Cinema, Rodeo Cinema, of course, is a mom and pop, or I guess independently owned theater over in the Stockyards. This is a separate screening room on the historic Film Row that has been there and has passed ownership over through multiple hands as long as I've been watching films in OKC, so since 2010. Tons of different people have owned it and passed it along, and now Radio Cinema passing it along with the current owners, as Dalton said, no longer interested in actually keeping it a screening room.
Yeah, it makes sense. The building owners are trying to keep taking care of a over 100-year-old building. That's hard to do. And you can't be precious about that kind of stuff when you own it, I guess. But the rest of us are very precious about it. So yeah, we're gonna try to see if we can keep it what it was, because it's been there. They've been screening movies in there since the 20s at least. I mean, the building's been there longer than that, but it was part of the whole enterprise of the early film business, right? There's not mass distribution. There's not day and date releases like we start getting in the 70s with the blockbuster films of Jaws and Star Wars. Back then, it's like, something gets made and it plays in New York and it plays in Chicago, and eventually it makes its way to Oklahoma into a big warehouse or film exchange full of film reels. And then theater owners, critics, other production bosses and stuff would sit down, screen movies in there. So theater owners then are picking what they want to screen at their theaters there in that room. So it wasn't even originally like a public screening space. It was just sort of a business place in many ways, as far as just watching film professionally, so to speak, and finding out what they were going to program. Because, again, it's this new medium. Everybody's figuring out how it works and how to promote it, how to screen it and exhibit it. I think at one point it stopped screening for a while. I think at one point it was a porno theater, I heard.
Probably.
Allegedly.
In the 70s, they did go for it.
I know Tower Theater was a porno theater at one point, so it wouldn't surprise me.
And then we have one of the logbooks. Somebody, people have cared about this place for decades. Somebody we've got a logbook from the 70s camp, right? Mm-hmm. And it's got all of these just like movies you've never heard, stuff that's, some that's like in the American Genre Film Archive now, but some stuff that's like probably lost entirely. But just meticulous records of like, head counts and, what the show times and what was screening. So it's been that we got that from this guy Bradley Wynn, who wrote the book on Film Row. He's got this history book. There's this series of Oklahoma City history books that you can find locally, and there's one on our Film Row district. And he's the one who wrote the book. We'll actually have him out this Sunday doing a lecture just kind of about in Q&A about his book, about the space, about Film Row as a district. But yeah, so it's cool what we've done in the last 15 years, I'd say, like the local Oklahoma City arts community, as far as like, comedy shows there, and, Sean's VHS and chill events, the down in front shows, the interruption show I mentioned that I do, but like all kinds of weird stuff. Sean did a Jeff Goldblum marathon in that
I know,
room.
I was there.
Yeah. Yeah.
I met I met Jeff Goldblum. I have photos to prove it. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's just so much cool, like, interactive live stuff you can do in that space because it is so intimate and scale, while still being a movie theater. It really is just so cool. But even, again, outside of what those of us still living have done with it, it's been a space that, like, you can feel the ghosts in that building.
Yeah.
When you go in there, you can feel like 100 years worth of movies on the wall. It's a really cool space.
Yeah. Sean, now I know of course you've hosted programming in there, several of which I've attended. Maybe walk me through like how this has been a huge lift for like what you do with VHS and Chill, and also sort of a community hub, and some of just how the events there also help kind of foster a community for film lovers in OKC.
Yeah, absolutely. The thing is that when I was general manager of Rodeo for a few years, after COVID, we realized we needed a second screen, and there was no actual space in the stockyards that we could really take over or purchase or expand to, or convert, purchase an abandoned building or something and fix it up with enough money. And I knew of the screening room I'd been to movies there previously under other ownership. I remember seeing Jaws there one night. It was like a secret video club. They gave you a little membership card. I still have a little red laminated membership card from there. And I remember going and watching movies there, and they just had a bunch of couches. They still had the old wooden chairs set up, but they had just couches. And so I knew that space was still there. I didn't know what state it was in. So I proposed, I put together a business plan for Rodeo. We went over there, ended up getting the lease and then doing a pretty big renovation, tearing out the ceiling, the roof, putting, modern speaker equipment in there. We, painted it. We put curtains, sound dampening curtains up. We put a screen because it was just a wall just a white painted brick wall. And we just kind of brought it back to life and used it for a few years as a second screening room for Rodeo Cinema. And with that, we ran into different difficulties with the two locations. People were always going to the wrong location for the movies. They'd go to Stockyards when it was something playing at Film Row. And, it was kind of a hard space to figure out. But we would throw everything at the wall. We had all kinds of crazy events. We did the Jeff Goldblum VHS Film Festival. We did live plays. We did comedy shows, open mic nights. I did VHS and Chill out of there for 2 years, screenings, all kinds of fun special events, giveaways. It was such a fun little screening room that was unique, that Oklahoma City doesn't really have a little room like that. Other big cities have, and especially nowadays, micro cinemas kind of are popping up here and there, run by little film groups, run by, big chains, some people. And Oklahoma City, it's very unique, that experience of watching a movie at Film Row. And it we used it for a while, and, I left and then got hired back for Dead Center this summer by Rodeo to fix it up because they hadn't used it in 6 months. It had just been, I wouldn't say abandoned, but it's just they hadn't had any programming over there. So the place needed fixed up, cleaned up, the projector brought back to life, filters changed, get the lens working again and everything, tested all. Because Dead Center had always done programming over there for years of their shorts and their horror shorts. And it was always a location that Dead Center very much liked to use, and they wanted to use it this year. And of course, my experience building that place, crawling underneath it, running speaker wire, putting in seats, painting it. Like I've spent, days and days and years working over there.
Yeah. Sean's been down in the hatch. There's an escape hatch from when film was flammable. We all love to go show it to people, but Sean's been in there.
No, we need to clear it off. It's got stuff on it and open it back up. It's crazy under there. But when I worked Dead Center, and then I ran it for the week of Dead Center, I operated the concession stand, operated the projecting booth, ran the shorts, ingested, and all that, with Dead Center's help, of course, through doing all that. I fell back in love with the place, and it killed me that nothing had been happening over there. And then I learned that the lease was going to be up at the end of August, and Rodeo had decided they were just going to focus more on Stockyards, which of course in this day and age I totally understand, but that was just going to go back. But part of that was that that I didn't know originally was that they were going to take everything out. Like the building owners wanted the room empty. There are no more chairs, no more curtains, no more screen, no more, projector. Just empty the room into a big cement, empty room. And that killed me. I was like, oh, that can't be how this place ends. Like, maybe years later, somebody could do something with it again. Who knows what it would have become. And I thought I was just, I made that video. I thought it was just going to be me shouting from the rooftops, like, hey, save the film row, screening row. I didn't, but then I'd known the people of the OFX, which they weren't necessarily called the OFX then.
Yeah, we hadn't even gotten that far yet.
They hadn't even gotten that far. It was this group of, creatives and people that worked in the theater industry and people that wanted to form an organization to preserve film and to show things and to really, just kind of, they were just starting. They were just getting started. And I thought it would be the greatest idea to see if we could, save the film row. Like they could use it for the filmmaking. OFX was born. And that's what I just kind of brought to him is just, hey, I think we could try. I think we actually, it's going to be a breakneck, crazy, Empire Records, Save the Ski Resort, kind of movie 80s thing where you've got a small amount of time to raise a lot of money to save this beloved space, to keep it going. And that's really what we're doing right now. And like you said, Dalton said, for this last month, the group has grown and they're all volunteers and they're just, I see it in the communications between us. It's nonstop. They're nonstop doing things. They're getting licensing. They're getting, things done. They're getting fees paid. They're rocking and rolling. And it has just been fascinating and just very encouraging to watch that these guys are serious. Like they are really putting everything, like nobody's half-assing it. They're into saving Film Row and with a vision of what to do with it. And it's just I've been blown away by the support of this group and, proud to jump in and help them out.
Amazing. Love to hear you say that. Just sort of organic. I do remember that post going through and I was really sad because I couldn't tell you the number of local filmmakers who screened their early cuts of their movie, or as fundraisers.
One of the first things I remember doing was Nick Sanford did his
Harvester.
Not even
no. It was
Tempest Fugit.
Tempest Fugit.
Yeah, it was his film school thesis that he did with Adam Hampton, hosting a Q&A with him there after that. It was like 2014.
You guys did a good trash show for them too, right?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. I mean, and even before that, I had been in there. But yeah, like you said, Caleb, like it's just always been such a cool space for people who had made something locally to kind of show it to the community and see what people thought, because it is just so intimate. You get to talk to people immediately. I mean, you're just in. It's both cozy and like, you just turn to your neighbor and like, well, that was wild, right? And it's just so easy for conversations to start up in that room.
It's intimate, but there's still plenty of space to stand around, both in the room and out in the hallway, chat and mingle. Very community oriented space for sure. Now, Sean mentioned the vision for what you guys are going to do with it. So Cam, I'll throw it to you, and the rest of you feel free to piggyback off of anything. Like, in terms of the vision for what you guys want to accomplish with, Oklahoma Film Exchange, what does that look like from your perspective?
We're really focusing on the term third space. So not just making it a movie theater, which is a big part of the agenda, but live events from like comedy to like a VHS board game thing Sean wants to do, to media swaps, to having people who haven't had a chance to like get out and do anything yet. Like we want to be the people that they're not afraid to come to and ask if they can screen a movie or like do a show with their friends. And we also want it to be really accessible. The building is old, and we mean accessible to like, anybody that could like attend at all. So we're trying to make it affordable, accessible, fun, basically, anything you can think of that we can pull off, I think we all want to do. We even wanted to do live music this month, but I think we're going to have to forego that one this month because the sound just isn't there yet. But we're going to get there.
You could bust out an amp, throw on the stage.
Literally, I was like, if it doesn't sound too good, it'll still be fun.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, that's, we definitely have a couple of plans in place to make it a little bit. Yeah, it's good for acoustic sets already, but we need a little bit more to open it up. But Cam mentioned some of the other drag shows, DJ sets, karaoke. Those are some of the other things we're like, oh, we could run some of that. So this month we are going to have the VHS board game night. So keep an eye out for that. But yeah, that's the tip of the iceberg is one of the words that keeps getting thrown around about every time we think we've figured out all the things we could do with the space or let people do with the space. We think of some new fun thing that could happen there.
Comedy show coming up quick.
This
month.
Yeah. Comedy show coming up quick.
Yeah.
Cam's going to do like a slumber party themed screening there. Speaking to that kind of the idea of it being a very cozy and intimate space. We're going to kind of lean into that and try to do some later screenings that kind of, come in your comfy clothes, stay around and hang out for a while. We talk, maybe we go, it's such a, brewery and bar heavy district that it's like and the liquor licenses for the whole building. So you can go into one of the spaces, get a glass of wine and come back in. There's this really cool wine bar right in the same foyer. But then there's a beer brewery that's just down the hall as well. It's just, we've had a lot of support from the local businesses around it too. Like everybody wants to see it stay a movie theater just because there's all kinds of, restaurants and drinking down there, but there's not a ton of like entertainment down in that area other than like a retro, arcade, barcade. Yeah, that's like the only other thing down there.
It fits the vibe so well. I mean, because you've got restaurants, you've got arcade, you've got breweries, you've got the OKC Cider Company, you've got the wine bar. A little space to watch stuff just seems like a natural fit, really, for the way the space is continuing to evolve.
Yeah. I mean, I'm glad Cam brought up the third space thing because that's really huge for us. Is that idea that like people feel like because I know talking to Cam about it, talking with Alex Sanchez about it, who I know Caleb. That's a space that meant a lot to us. Like even before Sean and brought it back to life as like a real place to watch movies with Rodeo. We were doing stuff down there when it was the Paramount Lounge or Paramount Room, which is
Paramount Room,
that our friend Brad Chad owned as a bar. So yeah, he was he had a stage upstairs, but also had that downstairs stage for other events. And like I said, there's just this long history with the building that goes back generations before us and hopefully generations after us. Like it is like, and again, like even back in its heyday, it wasn't a real movie theater. It was a place where people were talking about the movie and saying, that sucks. No, you're wrong. I'll pay X number for it and I'll screen it at my theater and you'll see. Like it was a space for talking about the movies and figuring out who liked what and what was important and what needed to be screened. And yeah, we just hope to kind of keep some of that alive and just keep people hanging out. Because, especially because of our staff right now, we know we're going to have to be volunteers for a while before we can figure anything else out. We can't do more than 3 events a day max, and that's going to, that's probably
3 events a day is that's intense. Yeah,
but to my point though, like that, and that's probably 2 on weekends. And even if we get through August, we know it's going to be weird figuring out what comes next. But we want to leave that downtime for people to go. Yeah. Oh, I just got done at Core 4. They're not showing any movies over there yet, but I bet they've got something on at 7 p.m. People getting done with their happy hour hangout can go, I bet there's something happening at 7 p.m. I can go over there.
Yeah.
That's sort of the idea.
Yeah, very cool. So you guys are, the vision being, we're going to make this a third space sort of thing, great community hub, first and foremost for movies, but also just as a place for people to kind of gather and meet. So I'm really excited about that. So let's say you're not successful. What happens to the space then?
Well, we can't, we're going to help Rodeo decommission it. They, like I said, have been really supportive and very gracious in letting us use it. But we did agree to they have a month to clear it out and they're losing that month to letting us program. Yeah. So that's why we only have the 3.5 weeks and not a full, 4 or 5 weeks of August is if we don't hit the big number, we are going to have to start breaking her down. So it's hard to say what'll happen to the space next. OFX is going to go on. There's cool spots like Bookish and Mycelium Gallery, all kinds of cool spots around town that are doing sort of, alt and niche programming. Sean's never stopped doing VHS and chill. I just needed a break from down in front. I've been planning to bring that back for a while. Paris Burris has been doing film for about as long as, not quite as long as Sean's been doing VHS and Chill, but longer than I've been doing Down Front, over 5 years, I think, close to it. So we've all been wanting to keep doing what we've been doing. So, that's not going to stop us. We will figure something out. Hyperreal bought an old strip club and turned it into a movie theater. If that's what we have to do, that's what we'll do. If we got to buy night trips, God damn it, that's what we'll do. We'll figure something out.
Everybody can still stay and work there.
Yeah.
It'll be a part of the thing.
Yeah.
Part of the
We are
cost.
trying to
Exactly.
have unionized jobs when we can pay people at this space, for sure. Yeah, no, everybody's welcome. Don't get it twisted.
So, again, very aggressive timeline. That's
Yeah.
a lot of dough to raise in a month. What are you guys doing to mobilize support to raise that money? And most important, maybe more importantly, where can people go if they want to contribute financially?
I mean, step one, if you want eyes on the internet, is to get a social media genius, and we've got one in Cam, who insisted on being our social media monster for a while, but we were like, we got to come up with something more professional.
Yeah, they wouldn't let me call myself a monster.
But I mean, that's been huge for us so far. And we've got a really great outreach team getting us with local media. Hopefully we've sent out press releases to national media. Hopefully we can get, because, obviously there are people who don't live here that care about seeing cinema spaces stay alive. So hopefully we can find some, interested parties who aren't around town to help us as well. But obviously,
Quentin Tarantino gives a shit about this, right?
Well, it's like United States history. It's the last film exchange, like the last thing of its kind.
yeah.
No, I think there's a tremendous
Yeah.
piece there that I think is worth national news.
Yeah,
It's,
I for a while thought it was just the last screening room in a film exchange, but as far as we know, of the 37 film exchanges that used to be in the
Right.
United States, this is the last standing building, as far as we know. So yeah, I mean, it is. We definitely want to try and pursue some historical status once we have our, once we have the lease. We would definitely want to get the other, because most of the other spaces, businesses rather, in there own their space. So we definitely want to, try to get with them and figure out getting, historical registration status for the building to protect it a little bit better, and hopefully bring some more money into keeping it, alive and renovating it a little bit, because it does need some work. Yeah, it's just. It's a cool space, man. I know that, Caleb, but Cam's been doing a great job just getting eyeballs on our stuff. We've also had some talks with some local nonprofits who want to help us and have helped us in some. Dead Center just gave us some passes to give away, so we'll be giving some Dead Center passes away this month. The Oklahoma Visual Arts Council has been talking with us about maybe a partnership of some kind. So even if we can't save this exact space, we've already built enough interest in what we want to do in the community that we know we're going to have support to do whatever comes next.
Right. There's already support for Oklahoma Film Exchange, which feels awesome.
Yeah, it feels insane.
Yeah.
It feels really crazy.
Yeah.
It's wild.
for not existed a month ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, genuinely. We've got about 500 followers on Instagram and about a week and a half of posting or something. 2
That's
weeks maybe.
incredible.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
It's all organic, right?
It's
Yeah.
it's
We spent no
wild.
money on social
No,
media.
none at all. Yeah,
Yeah.
you can tell by my graphics.
No, that's amazing. Well, last thing. So there's an Indiegogo
Yes.
that is so listeners.
Live as
if
of
you-
now.
if you're listening to this, it is live right now, and you got a timeline, listeners. We got until August 25th to give money to that Indiegogo. Linked in the comments for the show. What are some things people can expect to see on the Indiegogo page? What should they follow that?
Yeah, absolutely. So to keep it simple, you can just go to savefilmrow.com. We've got buttons to our Indiegogo all over that webpage. So just go to savefilmrow.com. That'll get you where you need to go. But if you're on the Indiegogo, look around. We've got all kinds of perks. We'll name part of the damn room after you if you got enough money.
Yeah.
You want to call it the.
Get my name on a chair.
You want to call it the Caleb,
yes.
the Caleb Masters chair. That's all you, buddy. If you want to call it the Cinematropolis screen, that's all you, man. Hey,
Let me
Chad,
open up the Cinematropolis prints money, as you know. So
Yeah,
let me
well,
just let me pull out that piggy bank.
If Reba McEntire wants it to be the Reba McEntire projector,
Right.
the Lee Pace recliner,
Come on, Lee Pace, Oklahoma's own.
the Chuck Norris popcorn machine.
Yeah.
Anything's possible.
Tyson Ritter's concession stand.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure Tyson Ritter's, has got $100,000 just laying around.
I'm sure.
Yeah. Well, listeners, check out the Indiegogo page. And I just got to say, on a personal note for myself, I've already said that this is a room that means a lot to me personally, a lot to a lot of my filmmaker friends who, there were various periods of our recent Oklahoma history where there was literally nowhere else they could screen their movie because they couldn't afford to rent like a Harkins or an AMC theater. And this was a place that allowed them to do that. I think I have watched multiple birthday movies with Jacob Burns in that theater. Like there are, this is a very important piece, both of our local community history now, but as Dalton and the team have laid out, Oklahoma's history and film history in the United States. So I cannot more highly recommend you contribute to the Indiegogo to save the Oklahoma City Film Row Theater. With that said, I want to close out by asking each one of you guys. I'll start with you, Sean. What does the Film Row Theater mean to you personally?
I mean, personally, it's the film community. I've grew up in Oklahoma City. I've lived in this city since the early 90s. And growing up, I never found a film community. I was a film kid since 1993, Jurassic Park. I saw Jurassic Park. From then on, it was done. I was a movie kid. I was going to watch everything I could get my hands on. And as the years went on, community started growing. Social media became a thing. Like, I'm that old. Like, it was, and I got to see that there are communities out there. There were communities out there. I didn't know there were groups of people going to the Museum of Art in the late, maybe 90s or early 2000s watching Kung Fu movies. And I was like, oh man, I would have been in with those. I would have loved to have known who those people were, but social media didn't exist. And if you didn't know them. And to see the film community grow, to see the local filmmaker community grow. And to me, Film Row is one of those spaces. It's one of those hallowed spaces that, we've watched movies with Mickey Reese. We've done things, like you said, we've screened somebody's first movie.
I think I've seen like 3 or 4 of Mickey's movies in that theater, actually.
Yeah, exactly. It has its place here, and I think that it deserves to continue. I think that it can continue to be used as that space to bring people together, to watch funny movies, to hang out, to talk, to, try your weird things, because we're going to be doing all that live stage stuff. If you've got an idea, contact us, send us an email. If you want to try something out, let us know. We'll see if we can make it happen. And we'll be using rentals. If you want to, have a birthday, have a wedding, there's been birthdays and weddings in there.
Bar mitzvahs.
Yeah, everything. And I think that it needs to continue, and that lots of people also agree with that, because so many people have been through the space. One thing I didn't want to mention, we mentioned off visiting the Indiegogo, but for the month of August, starting on August 1st, every single day we will have programming until the 25th.
701 West Sheridan, baby, come on down. 7 p.m. every night.
We're going to be having giveaways. Like, there's stuff happening.
Yeah, so even if, you might not be able to contribute on the Indiegogo, or you're not sure, come down, see us, hang out, talk. We're going to be there are free shows. Obviously, we're accepting donations, but if you haven't been there in years, come check out the space. Remember see how it is. If you've never been there, this is a great time to check the space out. Look on the website, follow the events, show up to something you think sounds cool, or something weird, like something I've always wanted to try is that VHS board game night. Yeah. I have stacks of old VHS board games, and we're going to set up a table, project it on the screen, put a VCR on the stage, and we're going to sit around and play some really weird old, and I hope I have all the game pieces. and that's free. Come hang with us. We'll have some fun. We'll have prizes, giveaways, stuff like that. It'll be great. And that's just, that space to me is just so important to the city.
Oh, well said. Cam, what is the Oklahoma Film Row Theater what does that mean to you?
Well, it's a space where I kind of connected to my group of people again. 2020 happened to all of us. And just after years of not leaving the house, I didn't even get out whenever, stuff was lifted. I was just kind of like, well, this is what I do now. Didn't feel so good. And then just one day I started going out again. I started going to Down in Fronts. And I've known Alex Sanchez for a long time. We lived together at one point. So I was like, I'm going to go support him. Dalton and I had been friends online.
We've been internet friends for a couple of years, but we hadn't really met. Yeah.
So I was like, well, obviously I'm going to go support that. And then it ended up being just so good. Like, I went out to support my friends, and I was like, oh shit, this is good and fun. Okay. And so I think I missed maybe one since I started going. I think I went to like every single one. And I would always bring people because I needed people to know. And so some of them were there. And then I just remember when Alex Sanchez was moving, he had his goodbye party there. we all sat in the room and kind of talked and told really bad jokes to each other, as
Swapped
we
old
always
stories.
do.
Yeah.
And that was the moment that I was like, okay, because I kind of came out for Alex Sanchez, and then everybody there, that community is in that room, is when I realized, like, I want to stay a part of this community. So not just the film community, but just the friends in general. And like, now I'm here doing this thing with Dalton, and like, it's so cool. Like, I'm glad he's had me on, and just like, it just kind of like brought me back to life, honestly.
Oh man, now that warms the heart right there.
Yeah, I mean, I feel similar, Cam. Like, obviously, we just talked about the Nick Sanford screening when he finished his fucking film school capstone. Like, that was one of the first times I was like publicly live doing film critic stuff. That was the first time I ever did anything like that, was hosting a Q&A there. And then, I miss Alex Sanchez every day. We talk all the time, but he's in Los Angeles. We don't get to hang out every day like we used to. And so, I mean, that space just means so much to me. That show is down in front. I mean, is so much fun to do. And I've, now that I've been doing it for, a while without Alex, it's become this other conduit to getting closer to my other friends, or, getting to know people better whose work I like and think are funny and want to work with them. It's I don't know. It's a room that makes me think about one of my best friends. It's a room that makes me think about what is possible with movies. I saw The Worst Person in the World in that room with Beck, and we were like the only couple in there. There's like an older couple in there with us. And we kind of turned around and like, that was wild, right? Yeah. That was it. And that, is one of the most intimate screenings I've ever been to. And I cried a bunch during that movie. And just, I've shed so many tears and bellowed so many laughs in that room, and I just think it really is a space where, it is a little micro cinema. It is ultimately not the best audiovisual experience. It's not an IMAX, right? But it's not something yet. More than that. Well, hey, not yet. I'm gonna get us Dolby Atmos in that room.
Get the Dolby Atmos.
Don't get it twisted. We're gonna get a 35 in there. God damn it. That's a stretch goal. It's happening. Yeah. We will make it happen.
Let's add that to
blood,
the
sweat, and tears.
Yeah.
That is one of the stretch goals. But yeah, I mean, that's what we have envisioned. There's nothing like that. We're an NBA championship city, and we don't have a micro cinema. What are you talking about? We don't have a place you can watch a 35 millimeter print in this city, but Chet Holmgren's got a ring. Like, what are we talking about? Be serious. I thought we were a serious big league city. Like, let's be a serious big league city. Keep this place open. Sorry, I get heated up about it.
Hey man, you're preaching to the choir, and the choir being all of our listeners and folks at this table. Well, one last time, because I know we are out of time, but one last time, just to put a pin in it, Dalton, where should people go to follow the Film Exchange? Number one. Number two, where can they donate to the theater?
Yeah, so we're at Oklahoma Film Exchange all over the internet, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, Facebook. But if you want to contribute financially to our cause, you can go to savefilmroad.com. The Indiegogo button's right there all over the front homepage. That'll take you directly to our Indiegogo. So yeah, just go to savefilmroad.com. They'll take you to our website, and the Indiegogo link's right there. Look through what perks we have for you. Come on out. Like I said, this is dropping on August 1st, you said? Come on out. Coming 1st, out tonight. Yeah. I'm doing Down in Front with Kirsten Thurkelson and Jordy Branham. We're screening a mystery cult classic by a famous filmmaker who might have smoked cigarettes so hard he died. Who's to say what the movie is?
They definitely are not. They did not pass recently due to lung problems.
Absolutely not.
No.
Certainly not. Yeah. Certainly not a meditation on the terrors of parenting. Yeah, we're gonna get a little loopy and a little goofy at that one. It's gonna be a fun time. But yeah, like Sean said, this whole month we're gonna be doing something every night. Come on out.
All right, awesome. Well, hey guys, we're out of time today. I really appreciate each one of you. Real quick, if you would like to give personal shout out for your personal plugs in terms of social media, Sean, thanks so much for joining the show, sir. Where can people follow you? All the cool things you're doing at VHS and Chill.
Yeah, VHS and Chill. I have a website, vhsandchill.net. I mean, that's a good place to follow along. And also, if you ever wanted to see the kind of stuff we do, there's all of the past events are all on there. And I mean, I've almost been doing this for 10 years. So there's a lot of, it goes back to day one if you want to go through the dates. But
back when everything was VHS.
So it has the website. I've got Instagram. I guess a little bit on Twitter, but mostly Facebook and Instagram, and the website or where you can follow along for my monthly VHS and chill events, which I'm hoping will be at the OFX.
Very cool.
On.
Cam?
Mostly just Instagram, plant.laced. I announce, comedy shows I'm going to be doing coming up, and mostly just post stuff I've cooked. So if you like looking at food, and then
I sure do.
Yeah, definitely follow that Oklahoma Film Exchange though, because that is my baby now.
Dalton?
Yeah, it's still at Dollywood Squares on Instagram, on Letterboxd. Yeah, come hang out. Come see what I'm talking about. I don't know. It's a cycle for me, Caleb. One day's movie posting, one day's politics posting.
I know. I understand.
Getting the demons out of my soul.
We live in a strange world and a strange time. I understand.
Ain't that the truth?
All right. Well, hey, thanks so much for joining us, everyone. We'll catch you again next time. Okay, Sean. So before we wrap up, you had the distinct privilege to talk to the man, the living legend, Francis Ford Coppola. Well, I say talk to you. Attended a Q&A, screening of Megalopolis that he was at with the Q&A following. Firstly, maybe we should talk briefly. What was your take on Megalopolis? 2024's most infamous, famous independent film.
Yeah, it was my favorite film of the year. I love Megalopolis. I saw it 3 times in the theater because there hasn't been a physical release yet in the United States.
It's killing me. I would say I didn't like it, but I would still buy it.
Yeah, I bought the Spanish 4K Steelbook because 4Ks are region free and there's an English language track.
Really?
So it plays perfectly.
Oh.
It was expensive, but to get it imported over here, but as a fan, I was like, I'm getting this, even though the menus and everything are in Spanish.
Coppola's got your money anyway.
Yeah. I have, a framed poster. I've actually bought some props from the movie. I bought an art action figure some guy made of Caesar. Like, I ridiculous.
Who's your favorite character in the movie?
My favorite character, Caesar. Yeah, Adam Driver. I think he's great.
I mean,
great is
it because you understand what's going on in his mind?
Not at all. Not at all. I don't like that movie. I tell people not because it's not what I would call a good movie, but it's so weird, and he took such huge swings that I respected the hell out of it.
Yes.
That it's not a popcorn 20-year legacy sequel. It's not a superhero movie. And I like that stuff too. But when I watched Megalopolis the first time, my first thought was, I have to watch this again. I have no idea what I just watched. And usually you just walk out of the movie and you're like, oh yeah, Fantastic Four is cool, whatever. I like Thunderbolts. But this one, I was like, what did my eyeballs see?
What did I just watch?
I have to see this again. And then I was like, wait, no, I still need to see this again. So this was like the 4th time I've seen it theatrically.
So you saw it 3 times theatrically when it came out. I assume you've watched the 4K at home, so you've seen it 4 times. So this is the 5th time you've seen it.
I mean, maybe 6th.
Maybe 6th. Okay, 7th, 10th, who's counting?
No, it's a weird thing with me. Yeah.
Hey, man, you love what you love and you're passionate about it. And I love to hear that. I landed a lot more in the, I respect all the swings. I mean, because Coppola, again, for listeners who do not recall, Coppola put over $100 million of his own money
he said
in his
he's
project.
Broke. He said, that's like one of the first things he said when he came on stage is, this movie just I'm about bankrupt.
You're like, Megalopolis 2, and he's like, money. I spent it all on Megalopolis 1, and you didn't show up enough times.
Yeah.
Okay, so how did it play on this viewing? Especially knowing I'm in the same room as Francis Ford Coppola himself.
No, it was an amazing night, a night I'll remember forever. It was my first screening ever at the Texas Theater in Dallas. I've never been there. I ran into one of the owner's managers while I was there. He remembered me from the rodeo days because we used to communicate when we were sharing like the room with Greg Sestero, and we used to email. And he was like, Sean from rodeo. And I was like, oh, hey, yeah, man. So we talked, we shook. I told him about the OFX. I told him what we're up to. And he told me that he absolutely love that this was my first time to the Texas Theater for this experience, that this was my experience, because it was a sold out house,
Amazing.
Packed full of people that wanted to be there, that, you know, that were fans. I mean, hopefully fans of the movie.
If you're showing up at Megalopolis, you were either watching it because you love it or you're hate watching it.
Yeah.
There's no middle ground.
No, it got laughs. It got applauses. It got, you know, standing ovation at the end. Like it was definitely the wildest one. It was also the first one I saw where, because I missed the original release or the first opening weekend or whatever. And it was the first time I got to see the guy on stage when he comes up and reads, you know, the questions to Caesar.
Like the live theater
live
components.
theater
Yeah.
component.
So again, listeners, an important piece of context. This movie was very experimental in a lot of ways. One of the ways in which it did that is there were live actual actors who would come into the room, and not necessarily every screening, but an opening weekend, it was a number of theaters across the country. They would hire actors to come in and play parts while things were playing on the screen. One of them being like a journalist.
A press guy. Yeah, it was like the best screening of it. I was second row, so I was right up front in the Texas Theater, you know, right there in the action, watching it. And I mean, it was the best, the way I would say somebody should see it. He's taking this tour like this isn't the last leg. He came from Chicago to here, like he was just at Chicago and he came here, and he's going around the country showing this and doing these Q&As. It's like just a thing he's doing.
You know, pretty smart business because he's got to recoup some of this budget. And you know, the thing about Megalopolis is if you find the people who love it, like yourself, really love it.
Yeah.
So doing going to some major hubs where there's definitely enough people in the city who love it, who will absolutely show up. Pretty smart.
It was.
And also it's a better theater going experience. You get to see the movie with a bunch of people who love it the same way you do.
Yep. It was really a wonderful experience. I really enjoyed it.
So did you during the Q&A? Well, actually, talk to me about the Q&A experience. Yeah. How'd that go?
I would describe it as a shit show, but not on Francis Ford Coppola. He was absolutely wonderful. And it wasn't like the whole thing was shit. It was also very long. Like the movie started at 7 and we got out of there at like 11:45.
Oh, wow.
Like it was, the employees of the Texas Theater very politely took his microphone away and helped him to stand up, and just kind of like 3 or 4 guys came out on the stage and wheeled like his stuff off. And he brought a whiteboard and he schooled us for like probably almost an hour on his thoughts of the future and how to save civilization. Like I thought the Q&A was going to be about, you know, a Q&A. There was a very small actual Q&A part of the thing. Most of it was him. He has this whiteboard. He's talking about war. He's talking about finances, school, jobs, you know, how to, you know, healthcare. Like he went through, it was 10 points he had, and he went through each and every one. And he was talking to us about his ideas for how civilization, society
could still be saved.
Could be saved, yeah. Which is, of course, a driving point of the movie.
Right.
And, you know, thought, you know, this guy has been trying to make this movie since the 80s, or the first thoughts of it came to him in the 80s. So, and he, you know, put together a table read in like 2001, right before September 11th, which ended that. But he shot B-roll of New York City in 2001, and he used it in this film. They just kind of, you know, flash it up with CG and neon lights and you know, rain effects and stuff. But he actually used that footage he shot back then. And but the thing that kind of threw it off tracks was the questions from the audience.
Always.
Literally the first guy who asked a question brought up his son that had passed away. Like the first question.
Wowza. Who's this guy? Why would you ask that question in a public setting?
It was...
Well, just a question at all, but especially in a public setting.
Yeah, and it ended up being about how to keep or let people know about somebody who had passed through your work. Like he had this huge, long, drawn-out question, and you could see Francis Ford Coppola was leaning forward, you know, listening. And then when he mentioned his son, he just kind of leaned back and sighed like, oh, cool, this is what I wanted to talk about. Like on the first question, you could see it in his face. I was like, I turned around and looked at the guy and I was like, oh my gosh, like,
why did you do that?
Like, you know, I didn't say anything, but I was just like, whoa. And the thing is, that was the whole night. There was a woman who came up and said, the way she was telling her story, she said that she wouldn't be alive if he didn't film Apocalypse Now. Right?
Holy cow.
He said, or she said that his children's nanny is her grandma, and that she was born, you know, while they were filming, or her father was born, your mother was born while they were filming the set. And she was explaining that, like, we all thought she was going to say she's some kind of secret love child, the way everybody got real quiet when she started talking about, my mom met you, my grandma met you, on set.
I'm actually your long lost granddaughter.
We thought that's where it was going to go. And it's one of those things where they're doing these long questions and he just interrupts and he goes, "What's your question?" And you could tell he was and he did that like 3 or 4 times. And I felt bad for the guy because another person came up and said his name was Coppola, and he's actually a second cousin to Francis. He's like, "We're family. And he just goes, "What's your question?" He's just like, what do you want? Like people tried all this stuff. They tried to hand him things. They, walked up to try and take pictures right in the middle of him talking.
Oh man.
Texas Theater was doing great. They were, they were keeping everything cool. They were helping keep them people. But the questions though, I was like, this is wild. Like nobody asked about Megalopolis. Like nobody, not a single person asked him a question
Not
about
a single one.
No.
And Megalopolis is such a rich text to ask about.
Yeah,
There's so many questions.
And yeah, his whole spiel, he didn't talk about Megalopolis. He was talking about, the ideas of Megalopolis. Like,
sure.
There was no behind the scenes story. There was no, what's it like working with Adam Driver? There was like none of that. Like, how was it, was this scene hard to film? Like,
at least if I was gonna ask a question you don't ask, I'd be like, so what was the deal with you firing your entire VFX department? Which I wouldn't have done, but like if that, at least that's a dumb question pertinent to the thing you're there to see. Yeah.
Unlike I had questions about Megalopolis I wanted to ask, but once I was hearing what was going on, I just kind of put my hand down. I was like, oh, this is strange.
Yeah.
Like, it was just wild. But what he was talking about, there were some things I'd never thought about. And obviously he's a very intelligent man. He's talking about all these books he's read over the years. He's saying like he can remember all kinds, things. He has an extremely good memory, he said for his age. But the ideas he had about, schooling and jobs and stuff, things that they touched on in Megalopolis, he talked about. And I thought that was like, I took notes. I was writing, I've never read the story of Gilgamesh. And he's like talking about one of the original human stories. Yeah. And he's listing books people should read, like the beginning of Civil. Like he's got all these, and I'm over here on my phone just taking notes. Like, okay, like this stuff sounds great. Like I've never, I've heard of these things, but I've never read them. And one of the great things he said, one of the things I took away from that was he was telling that when he was younger, when you get in Hollywood, you get rich, you get famous, you can drink too much to excess there can be huge problems with that. Mm-hmm. Using drugs to excess, huge problems. You can, women, he was like, women, you can get into a lot of problems with that. He goes, one thing you can always do to absolute excess, and it's only beneficial, is learning.
Yeah.
To keep learning, to keep educating. And he was like, you can do that, all day long, every day. And it's just going to be beneficial to your experience and to society. Mm-hmm. And I never thought about that. I was like, oh, that's great. That's cool. It was something I'll remember for a long time.
That's incredible. It seems like you went for the movie and then you stayed for the college lecture afterwards. Yeah. And then you got all the freshmen who were from a different wrong school asking the questions to the very tenured professor. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, this sounds amazing, though. It's a memorable experience. The thing about interesting about Francis Ford Coppola, I saw that Megalopolis, there was a live stream press event around the country. And I say press event. Were you in this screening for it? It was like an IMAX. Okay.
I wasn't there.
There was a ton of, it was like, because I don't even know who all got invited. There was it was at the Warren IMAX here in Oklahoma, and I guess in Moore, Oklahoma. And there was it was just a lot of film people, not even all like film critics like I'm used to seeing, all in this room watching it. And then they're live streaming a Q&A before the movie plays. And I won't get into the details, but it was a moderator, Francis Ford Coppola, and then panelists, that was what they were labeled as, panelist Robert De Niro and Spike Lee. Why were they panelists? I still don't know. Yeah. And it was one of the most bonkers Q&As I have ever seen in my life. Clips. Yeah. And I seriously, I'll be thinking about that in 30 years, like, man, that was the craziest Q&A. Like everyone was off the rails. Like the moderator was trying so hard, but and also everyone was like a legend. So you're like, well, I can't tell Robert De Niro not to talk about Trump on a mic, right? Anyway, I say it to say, I'm glad to hear that even though for different reasons, that a Q&A with Francis Ford Coppola was still interesting and dynamic.
Yes. And I remembered this and I saved this as my quote for the night from Francis Ford Coppola during his discussions about the evolution of man, which he went through from beginning some caveman to now. The quote of the night for me was, chickens and dogs cannot have babies. End quote. Francis Ford Coppola, 2020. that I wrote that
What
down.
does it mean? We'll never know.
Well, no, you had to be there.
You had to be there.
Yeah.
Did you get to ask him if he was going to release Megalopolis on VHS?
I wanted, like I said, I didn't get to ask the guy anything. I had questions, but that's one thing I don't have is a Megalopolis on VHS.
I think you can make that happen.
I think
You have a way of either figuring out how to make VHSs or you find movies on VHS that,
Yeah.
like Alien Romulus. I'm sure you got that one.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
It's incredible.
All the new stuff that has been dropping, like official stuff and bootleg stuff. Like I just ordered. Somebody horribly made fun of me. I just ordered Independence Day Resurgence.
I mean,
which I hated. I mean,
it was awful.
I hated that movie, but now I have it on VHS right
You're a
next to the first one.
completionist. You're a completionist, and also that you want it on VHS.
Mm-hmm,
If I was gonna own Independence Day Resurgence, I would own it on VHS
Because it's a conversation piece. Nobody's going to see your Independence Day Resurgence Blu-ray and be like, "Yo, man, you like that?" Nobody's gonna. They're just gonna look at you and kind of judge, like, "Oh,
Be like, I can't believe you spent your own money on that." But it's a VHS, like, oh, you're a collector.
yeah." Like, or where'd you get that? Like, like what? How? What is that from an alternate universe? Where did you get that on VHS?
Oh man,
Yeah.
So much fun. Well, Sean, anything else you want to add about your night with Francis Ford Coppola and Megalopolis before we wrap up?
Just that that part of Dallas I'd never been to is just wonderful. The Bishop Arts District.
Yeah.
We had a great time. I mean, it was a quick trip just there and back. I came straight from Dallas here to this podcast.
Bless you. Thank you.
Pretty much off the highway right up here. And just a wonderful little trip and I had a great person come with me. We had a lot of fun. Oh, man, we did some VHS hunting. I mean, I spent almost like couple $100 on VHS.
Oh snap!
I went to some good spots. Yeah. I got some Laserdiscs. I got some good stuff.
What thing did you pick up that you're most excited about?
Masters of the Universe Japanese import VHS.
Whoa!
Yeah,
deep cuts.
Dolph Lundgren. Oh yeah, I'm like wanting to go home and watch it. Like,
you were mentioning me. I went to Japan earlier this year, and we were exchanging some messages. I listen. It's not cheap or easy to get to Japan necessarily, but if you go, they still keep this stuff on a lot of store shelves.
I bet.
Like to a surprising degree.
I've got a nice little collection going now. I've got Ernest movie. Like Ernest Goes to Jail on import Japanese VHS.
Oh, that's incredible. All right. Well, hey, Sean Peel, so glad to finally welcome you on the show. Really glad to hear you talk about Megalopolis. And listeners, even though on this show we were not high on Megalopolis, we were certainly high on the fact that it exists and that it is a big, massive swing that Coppola took. So
he did.
All right, Sean, thanks for joining us.
Thank you.